Hey guys, so we're gonna get started on some music production. Let me turn this music down just a bit. I don't know how loud it is. No, let's just turn it off. Let me fix that real quick. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so we're gonna do some music production right now. I am hanging in there. This is gonna be my first live video. I am excited to show everyone my music process, and hopefully I can help teach some of you guys how to do some things, and hopefully we can make something cool. But anybody who tunes in, feel free to comment, feel free to give any tips or suggestions. May or may not follow through with any of them, but at least we can get some communication going and some involvement going. Should be fun. Anyway, yeah, let's try this out. We are going to figure out how to do this. All right, I think we are set. Let me fix that chat box. Here we go. Maybe that's too small to see, but might be nice to have something there so I can see what's happening. All right. Cool, so it looks like this because I have my OBS hidden. But once I slide over, then we can get this music production going. I also have a Focusrite, Scarlett Focusrite for my audio processing. It's an audio interface I can use for my volume levels and stuff. So I have my headphones plugged into it. But so I might not know exactly how it sounds to everyone watching the stream. Let's check this out. Let's see how it works. Yeah. Anyway, let's get started. So here I have Ableton Live 10. The updates are too expensive for me, so I can't really afford it, but I've been able to make do with what I have. Today we will be using Ableton and Splice here. Splice is something that I purchase every month for like 20 bucks. The affordability for like a high school student, probably not worth it, but for someone who has a job, I think it's definitely worth the cost. I'll probably end up using some samples from this library here. I have that plugged in to this MIDI track here. I have it lowered at -6 dB just for the purpose of sometimes the audio samples are too loud, so while I'm playing my music and I'm listening to the audio samples over it, I don't want it to overwhelm my music. I want to hear how it might work with it. And then I have the Splice bridge. This comes with Splice. This basically allows you to listen to your track, your song, with the samples playing over it in the right keys. And anyway, I'll show you how it works later on. But just so you know, we have this going. The way I use Splice, you won't be able to do that without this connected. And that should just be in your plugins. If you go to, for me, it's audio units. Under Splice, you got Splice Bridge. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, so I have defaulted this layout. And the way it works is I usually start with my drums. And I created this drums group with a MIDI group and an audio group in it. And each of them have an audio effects rack with one chain created for each of those. I have not done that yet with this group yet. Let me throw that in. I've also defaulted the audio effects rack to always show this chain. It's kind of nice for volume gauging and figuring that out. So in this MIDI group, I have on their own tracks each of the drum hits. So I got kicks, snares, hats, and crashes. And if I ever want to use shakers instead, I'll just copy and paste one of those. Just Command D, and they'll show up. You can rename them like shakers rack. That's Command R on Mac. And there we go. Now we have a shakers track. That's just for future reference. I have ADHD. Sometimes I'm sporadic with my thought movements and stuff. In this audio group, I have just one default sample where I can just come in and drop any sample I find from Splice. I'll show you how I do that in a bit. That's also got the same chain here. So you can tell that each of these also have their own drum racks and inside what's it called, instrument rack with the same chain thing involved there. So that's all defaulted as well. So that way, if I want to like lower the snares as a whole, I can lower that volume there. Anyway, this is my layout, and I have that in a drums group. This is my key scale track. I don't usually put anything on this except for maybe like chord progressions. Just MIDI clips of chord progressions I'm using, and then I indicate. For instance, if I'm in A minor, I'll do Command R on that. I'll go A minor. Just for future reference for me to go in and look at what key I'm in, so that way I can remember which chord to use. So it's cool. Anyway, so I first start out with a tempo. Tempo, I like to go below 100. Sometimes I go just above 100. I don't like to go too fast in my songs. You can always let it work for you. So for instance, like a sample might be going at like 148, right? And then you can have the rest of your song in 74. So if you want your BPM in 74, then you can grab the sample that's going 148, and you can do the math on that and make things work for you. Anyway, so that is what I have so far. Just checking things, making sure they're working properly. Looks like YouTube is not responding. Interesting. So it looks like I'm talking too much. There's not enough video going on. Anyway, let's get things going. I might just do things, and maybe I'll think out loud a little bit, walk you through some things. Maybe I'll be too specific on some explanations. Not quite sure. There isn't like a full script for how I'm doing this, but let's just play along. So I like to start in my 80s or 90s. So I'll go 85 BPM. And then with that, I like to open up Splice. Let's throw a Splice over here real quick. Let's open up Splice and let's listen to some drum samples. So I go to Instruments, Drums, View All. And the key here, the BPM, if you want specific key and BPM, you can throw that in there. Here it shows one shots or loops. I just want to go for loops. I want to find something real, something like realistic. and something that will actually work for us. My splice is working pretty slow because of the stream. Anyway, so let's look for, I like to stick to acoustic or live sounds. Then you can specify a genre like hip hop. Let's listen to some. Whoops. Wow, yeah, that's really delayed. Let's quit splice and reopen it. Yeah, my CPU power is going through the roof here. Let's try that again. It's still kind of delayed. That one's too tony for me. Looks like I've already used this one before. So I've already purchased it, so then I drag it. I can drop it over here. You want to make sure that the BPM matches your audio clip here. It's right there, it's 80 BPM. It's really loud, so I'm going to drop it down to 6. Consolidate it. You want to pull this really low. And we can do some effects and stuff with that later. But now that we've got a decent rhythm going, and we can start programming some things in. It looks like still isn't working very well for me. There's me what? There's, I don't know if it's working yet, but hope it'll figure itself out. I'm sure it's a CPU issue. I'm using a little MacBook Air. So this is a pack I purchased. I don't remember how much it costed me, but I really like the pop kick. I lowered the sustain on that. You can lift up the decay. to kind of preserve some of that sustain still. I like my hits to be around 101 velocity. So if you double click and then drag up or down, it'll raise or lower the velocity. So that's 101. And if you select an area, Command L, and that'll loop that area. So here we're going to have the kicks on the 1 and the 3 of every measure. I just copy and paste that clip. I'm going to lower this. Oh, not the audio. We're going to go into the clip. And then here, it seems like those kicks are not matching up with my kicks. And though they are acoustic, I mess things up. I like to preserve the hats that are being used, but the kicks and the snares not as much. See, that one's really early, so we're just going to fade that one in. Instead of cutting it out, we want to preserve some of the natural feel. That's really early too. And then I'm just going to copy and paste all these. I like a very low velocity kick right below right before the snare hit. So we'll go back into that clip and remove that other kick noise. So we don't want that at all. Let's just copy and paste some of those. We can just delete that click there. This track here we don't want to spend too much attention on. It's not super important, it just might help with the rhythm a little bit. So this snare is really early. I'm going to pull that closer time here. If you hold Command while you drag on the mouse, you can eyeball the timing. That might be a little bit better for us. Is that mention that it's. I'm gonna look this up on my phone and make sure it's still recording here. Yeah, it looks like it's still working. I don't know if you can hear that music playing outside. It's kind of annoying. Sounds like they're having fun though. That's good. Sorry, I'm just fixing some things here. It's really hot here. Hopefully the outside noise isn't too annoying. All right. Well, yeah, I think this whole thing is delayed just a little bit. That is okay. All right. That's pretty cool. Okay, and then usually when I start with drums, I actually like to focus on specific elements first. So with this one kick hit, I don't like to go and throw in the whole rhythm and stuff, but I first like to focus on the drum drum hit sounds. So here in the it's cool because with the drums, what you want to do is you'll actually want to do it mono, or what I like to do is I like to put it on the left. Just makes it left of center as far as what I am aware of. I'm not fully sure what it is. I saw someone else do it and it sounded good. I like to use this kick too. I like just to pull it up a little bit here on the low cut and then lower it on the high cut. Maybe low here on the mids. If you hold down Option, you pull down up and down on your mouse, it edits the resonance on that or the Q value. Then if you hit tab, it actually switches your view from arrangement here to your live view. And I like doing this because it actually gives you the exact volume readings of each track you have. So 787 is a pretty good value there. Maybe we can lift that up. I like to aim below 6 or just right on negative 6 dB. Negative 7.5 is good. That gives us good value. So what I like to do while I produce is I like to set it up so that way it's easier to gain stage. And gain staging is the mixing process that should be done before a mastering process. And it basically allows for a louder and more crisp master chain, which is really cool. Anyway, so while I produce, I like to make sure I'm leveling as much as I can, just to make sure that each of the one instrument is louder than the other, you know, and I want that one to be more prominent versus like the quieter one, which is more just for an effect sound. So it's really interesting to do that, but it's kind of fun to gain stage as you go. So that's what I like to do. So in the live view, I like to read these volumes. I like to use the return tracks and the sends and stuff. Anyway, I'll show you that in a little bit. We got the kicks. Now we want to do the snares. So Shift, Command M for those who don't know. And then Shift and Tab actually switches you from clip view to your chain here, your chain view. And so for the snares, I either like to go look at the default drum hits that are already available to you. They have a ton. I understand they probably have more in like Live 11 and Live 12. Those are more metallic. It sounds pretty good. That one's kind of cool. This is a good one, I think, for this rhythm we've got going. So So I like to switch it from classic to one shot. And you can lower the sustain. Maybe lower the decay a bit. So you want your snares to be more crisp or slappy almost. So the decay will add more slap while the sustain adds more length. So now we can throw those down 101. That's pretty cool. Maybe we could do and here we can look at the snares. It's already at negative 7.9 without any effects on it. So if you hit this chain view here, you can lower the specific hit that's on the rack. So I'm going to lower it maybe 5. Because the EQ we'll use will actually boost the gain. And we'll also have a second one in there that I like to put a second one in here. This one would be pretty loud. Oh man. This is all wiggy. Alright. So let's lower that 5 as well. Lower the sustain a bit. Heighten the decay. See, that went up a whole decibel. It's going to be pretty loud with both of them playing, and I like to just copy and paste those over just to start out. So let's lower the velocity on this. Command and pull down. We'll lower the velocity. Alright, cool. Loop that. Then you can actually, I like to lower these in velocity, just barely short of the other one. And then if you do a forward delay here, pull it forward a bit. Makes them both slappy, but in consecutive hitting right on top of each other like that, but this one a little bit forward more. It makes it sound like it's more of a roll hit almost. Not like an actual roll where there's multiple hits, but just like it makes it wider sounding. Maybe that's a better way of saying that. And now let's look at the volume level. All right, so that's still pretty high. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pan these just a little bit apart. So this one is going to be, let's say 6. This one's going to be like -2. Let's make the back one spread a little bit. Now that volume level is just a bit lower. If we hide that, what we can do is we can add this effect to the whole rack, where you throw down a utility. You can lower the output gain on both of those by, let's say, 2. Now when you throw the snare EQ2 on, this is what I like to use. I don't really like much of the others. For some reason, I like the EQ2 for the kick and the EQ2 for the snare. See how loud that is? It's -630 already. So that's a little bit too bright for my taste right now. We can throw a third one in here. The fourth one to lift that up. Yeah, so then with this utility right here, we might as well pull that down. For some reason that's louder now. All right, that's good. We can just listen to the MIDI without the audio by just selecting the group. So the audio file I'm using with the MIDI, it sounds good. There's some work that needs to be done. Maybe I can throw in some shakers to make it seem like it's more in time, because we noticed that it was a bit early compared to the MIDI tracks. There's a kind of cool groove to it with that snare hitting just a bit, I mean that hi-hat just a bit early. So now I like to go back into that audio clip once I've analyzed kind of what I want to do with it. So back to arrangement view. Might as well consolidate these. And let's EQ it. So you can see there's still a lot of low ends, even though we've cut out those kicks pretty well. So I'm going to use an engineer low cut. It's the more direct down cut. Those snares sound pretty quiet because it's at negative 20 dP already. We don't want them to take too much room from the other snares that we have. So let's bring those down just a bit, then we can heighten. We can use the shelf to heighten up those hi-hats. Maybe we can bring this up 18 decibels. Let's look at the volume. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, and then you're going to think I'm crazy for this. Sometimes, in the right context, I actually like to throw this plugin I have called Fuzz Plus. I think it was free, if I remember right. I don't remember who recommended it to me. It was some guy on a YouTube video. But check that out. This is a audio damage distortion. So this is with no distortion. I don't know if that audio is lying to me or not. Well, it's definitely louder, isn't it? All right. So with that, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually freeze this track. And what that basically does is it smashes, if you're a visual learner, it kind of smashes the EQ on top of the clip itself, and then it actually makes it distorted throughout the clip as well. Put that fuzz plus plugin, and it actually makes it so that way it doesn't have to process these plugins anymore. So if you ever want to like reduce CPU usage, you can actually just freeze a lot of your tracks as you work, and then you can even turn it off if you like want to save a track for later, but you don't want to be listening to it right now at the moment. You can just turn it off, and it's not being processed at all. But I like to freeze it, and then you go down and you hit flatten, and it actually flattens it into an audio file, bounces it. And then I pull up another audio effect rack on, the sample. Then you can lower that. We're going to get some more percussion going on here. But I want to come up with like some chords before we do that. But now that volume is a lot lower, I think. So I usually start with a kick and a snare. That's kind of my default starting point. With an audio file to help with groove and also to help with humanism, kind of an idea. And then what I like to do next is I actually copy and paste that, because it's just a MIDI clip that's already there, which is kind of nice. I start with the bass. I like to color my basses yellow. Let's get rid of that. So for my basses, what I like to do is I like to use a wavetable. Let's see if it'll load for me. And if you make it a saw wave there, pull down the frequency a lot. So you don't want too much because it's a bass. This is just for the starting point. You make it mono. We lower that volume down to 14. This is kind of just a good starting bass sound that I like to use. Bring up the voices, lift up the sustain, lower the attack. And now if you hit M on your keyboard, you can actually use your keyboard for keying it in. If you hit Z or X, it lifts it up octaves. So if we lower that an octave. That's how 808s work, is it's just a sine wave. But there's a click there because I lowered that attack. It's still kind of... So it's kind of an attack bass, which is okay. Anyway, so hit M so you deactivate the MIDI keys. You can hit this so you can hear the notes. So let's come up with a key to go in. So let's start with, I like to work in minors. So let's minor key. So let's just start with E minor. Let's lower that an octave. Command A selects all. Command Shift. And then if you do the up or down arrow, it lowers the octave. And I think I bought Unison. Unison is a chord pack purchase you can make. They're all MIDI clips. There's also some exclusive bonuses, which are kind of cool. There's some interesting loops you can use for drums. But here, the chords on the left are majors, and the chords on the right are minors. If you find your E flat minor, Yeah. If you go to E flat minor, triads, E flat minor, and it shows you each of the chords that are in scale of E flat minor, which is pretty cool. You can even copy and paste those in, but I just like to see it for the Roman numerals, the tonal values, and also the chord names next to it. It gives me a decent idea of what's going on. There's also progressions. The diatonic triads are your basic popular progressions, and there's advanced progressions that use borrowed chords and different accidents and stuff, accidentals. So I'll usually stick with diatonic triads. I like to start on the 1. For some reason, I just like doing that a little bit more. So we're going to go one, 5, 4, 7. So E flat minor, or 5 is B flat, 4 is A flat, 7 is your C flat, D flat. Okay, and then I'm going to switch up the rhythm a little bit on these. Okay, so let's do that. Let's hear that. That's kind of cool. Okay, so now that we have kind of a bass melody, you can copy those up here. Rename this to E flat minor. And I have mine black. And if you do assign track color to clips, it colors these the same track color. You can even move those up one, because we'll use those later. So for this, now, if you go to envelope 2, lower the sustain all the way, lift up the decay, maybe 2.4 seconds. If you click this here, if you pull this down to like 300, if you click that, it activates the section. So if you want to do filter 2, you click filter 2. If you want to do filter 1, filter 1. If you want to do oscillator shape, click that, I'll change it. And then you drag up on envelope 2 here. Maybe even do it a little bit lower. up that resonance a bit. And you can use a what's it called? I think these are like saturators. Maybe that's a bit too loud. Pretty nice. Okay, sweet. So now I've got a bass. Copy and paste that. You can name this chords or something. And then if you select all these, drag them up an octave. Now these are all new good starting points for the chords you're going to use. So E flat has G and G flat and B flat. You can lift that up one there. That's E flat. Oops. That's why. Okay. And then B flat has D and what is this? Oh, no wonder. I don't think I pulled those up a full octave. That's hilarious. Okay. That's why. Okay. Okay, here we go. So B flat, G flat. And I like to consolidate these mini clips a lot because it wraps all the chords into a good size key. Anyway, so you can see all the chords. This is going to be B flat, so that is D and F. Let's pull those both up. This is A flat, so that's going to be C flat and E flat. Pull those both up. Maybe not. Let's lower that. And these are just the same as those, so and this is D flat. And that is the major. So F, A, let's lift up that F there. All right. I think that'll be good for us. Now I like to use the wavetable here as well. Either use a wavetable or like serum or anything you want to use. I'm basically going to create the same instrument here. It's just up higher. Actually, we're going to lower this sustain, lift, heighten the decay a little bit. This is going to be more of like a hitting instrument, not as much of a sustained plucking instrument. Maybe I like to use noise a little bit, so we'll lower the amount here. Lower the frequency. So I'm grouping these into an instrument rack. That way we can have our chains here. We can gauge the volume using those. Maybe we can throw another oscillator here just below the sawtooth. Put that up 12. And if you hit the serial button and hit parallel, turn that on. Oh, that's making my CPU jump. All right. Let's go in and let's spread these apart. So I'm actually going to copy and paste that into the chord progression now. You can just keep one, you don't need both of them. Let's recolor that to this dark red, which I like. And then also, sometimes I forget till later on, but if you click this master track here in the master channel, you go down to utility, drop one in there, hit mono, command K, you click that, and then if you hit any, you can hit any key here, so anytime you hit that key, it'll toggle this on and off switch on the utility. I like to use the tilde thing to use it for like coding and stuff, but that tilde command isn't routed to anything yet so far on Ableton, I don't think. So I like to do that there. And then you can copy and paste that. And then switch this to, if you double click this or command click it to mid side mode, then you lift that all the way up. You can do the same thing there. Only difference is that this is going to be defaulted to off. This is defaulted to on. You can group those. And then with that, oops, not the right one, there we go. Command K, do this, and then if you do shift and that tilde button, it'll come up with, it'll actually come up with the tilde key there. And then that will toggle the on and off for utility. And if you ever, actually, let's reverse that. That might be better for me. This will toggle, whoops. That way you can toggle the mono on and off using that first button, like the apostrophe looking thing, right? Because it's turning on the group and this is defaulted to on. If you wanted to switch it to sides versus mono, just command shift, then that'll switch it to this one here. And that's just all sides. So let's listen just to all sides. So that way you can like listen to all the sides instruments depending on how you pan them and stuff. And you can get a better sound for what that sounds like. Mono does the same, but it puts it all into like a center mono, just a one channel sound basically. And it's really nice to use that so you can gauge the loudness of all the different the whole orchestration of all the different instruments next to each other, on top of each other. You can kind of gauge which ones you want to be more prominent and not. So I like to use that, so that way here I can go in. So this chords instrument is louder than the drums. Usually I don't want that. So I'm actually gonna, I said earlier I was gonna spread these, but then with this, let's freeze that for now. Like I said earlier, it kind of just turns it into audio without actually turning it into audio, so that way it doesn't have to process the effects anymore. And you can see my CPU is a lot lower now, but it's still playing. Only downside is you can't actually add any effects into that until you unfreeze it. But now we can kind of focus on the bass without the CPU going berserk. With the bass, I usually start with the bass cab. If I'm being honest, I don't know what it does entirely. I do know it sounds a bit better. So this is without it. I like to think of it as just turning it into like an actual bass sound. It sounds like it's coming from a bass, and a realistic, like a real life bass somehow. And then you can also add other effects to make it sound more wide and fat. So then I like to throw in an amp maybe sometimes, and just leave it on the blues. It's on mono. Maybe we'll lower that treble. We don't want that treble to be too prominent. If you get an EQ8, you can start shaping it. Engineer cut around 42. This is basically like, I think it's below 120 is subs. Like sub, maybe it's below 100 is the sub-bass frequencies. 420, there's basically no difference in the subs if you cut anything lower than that out. I saw that on a video somewhere. It basically said that there's hardly any difference in like studio speakers or in a car or anything. You don't really notice the difference. But anything up here you can kind of lift up if you want. Then here I grab the saturator, hard curve, lower that dry wet before you listen to it. Lift that up maybe like 4 or 5 dB. I like to lower the depth, bring up the width. So now you can see that I can't really play with that, so I'm going to freeze the bass instead. So now it doesn't have to process it, and then unfreeze this track. Make sure not to hit flatten. If you unfreeze this one, now you can listen. From what I know is you want your bass to be a little bit more prominent than the other one, than the other instruments. You can do that by either layering basses. See, that's jumping. Yeah. All right then. So we're going to freeze that one too now. Now we can kind of throw a little bit of a snare roll in here, right at the end here. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a slower roll, but I think it's sweet. I just copied and pasted that. I also like to maybe throw in some more in timing hi-hats. Oh yeah, those are snares, duh. Maybe we can use the lights. I like to bring it like halfway through the hit. Lower that decay. Maybe all the way. And lower that sustain just a bit. Maybe we can lift up that decay a bit. I think that's okay for now. And because we don't really have much going on the hi-hats yet, but we do have some on the audio. Audio is kind of a slower hi-hat thing, so maybe we can do something like this. That's pretty cool. Okay, so those snares are still quite loud, so maybe let's... I think it's just these ones here. I think it's because that initial one is pretty heavy. Let's lower the... Because this is happening right on a kick beat, so I think that's why. Those are also pretty loud. So maybe let's lower those. Yeah, that was good. Okay, sweet. So here, to make more of a human sound, you want to maybe move the off beats or just a bit. That way it sounds less timed. And we're just gonna move that. And we're gonna EQ it. You can hear it's a little bit to the right, I think. To me, this is more in the middle. I don't know about you guys. So maybe let's pull it to the left. And then random pan it a little bit. You can hear it kind of swings to the right a little bit. Maybe let's pull it more to the left. Like. I usually want this around negative 15 dB compared to the others. Maybe like negative 14. Because now we're going to throw in some reverb on it. I like to use this Valhalla Vintage Verb. I recently got this plugin. It's pretty cool. Kind of behind the times on it because there's a lot of people, a lot of pros are already using this. So it makes it sound more wide as far as what chamber kind of thing it's in. Then later I'll add some gated reverb to the snares, and I won't play around with the kicks too much, I don't think. And then we'll process the overall group with the MIDI, and then the overall group with the audio, and then overall group with the drums all together, glue it all together in the end. Okay. And then this is something I like to do. With chords or with, let's actually delete. I want to delete those bass notes. We actually don't need those. Maybe we do, but I want to at least listen to it without. So we already have the bass playing. Oh, that's jumping so high. I just don't want it to shut down on me. It's because of the processing of the second envelope that's happening on the instrument. That's taking a little bit more CPU memory to actually do that. That's why I'm freezing that and why it works to not do that. It's because I'm just streaming and I have a pretty trashy computer. So anyway, so here I have some defaulted, I have 3 defaulted return tracks. They're all colored black. I like it that way. So this one I'm going to paint red because we're going to apply it to this here. It's also going to be a reverb. So the way return tracks work is using these dials here, you can feed a certain gain amount of this track into this, and it'll copy it and paste it into this one with these added effects you have on it. You can have it louder than the original track or quieter than the original track, but I like to throw like halls, get a nice synth hall on it. Maybe it'd be nice to actually have a higher attack on that. I'll show you. So this is the original track here. That's a really cool sound. I love it. And this is what it's going to be. This is going to be the return track. So right now we can't hear anything, but you'll hear that reverb. You can hear some of those tones bouncing off of each other. It's pretty cool. I'm going to lift that decay up. That's really cool. That's pretty. And then I like to throw this utility on, lift it 10 decibels, because even though we only have negative 24 decibels going into this, we're going to lift that up a bit. And that is jumping like crazy. I don't know why. I should save it real quick. Stream 1. Watch it jump around again. I'm gonna lift that up just a bit, so maybe like negative 16. So now, this is the original without the return track. And this is it with the return track. we're going to EQ that actually. We don't want those lower frequencies or the really high frequencies. So because it's actually kind of in a good spot right here, there's there's not too much going on in these bass frequencies. What I actually like to do is I just lower that resonance, that Q value. Doesn't cut them fully, but they're still there. And then you can lift that up to like 120. And if you use this low pass cut, let's get rid of that. We don't actually need it. Let's lift that up around 14 actually. Anyway, I think it's about time for me to end because it's been an hour and a half or something. I don't know how long it's been. Let's check. I don't think it's showing there. Yeah, it's been an hour and a half exactly, actually. And even though we just got like the start of the song going, we haven't gotten further than that. It kind of shows you kind of my process with the drums and how I start with the bass, then I move on to the chords. We can also throw in some samples. I'm actually going to, you know what, I'm going to go back on my word. I'm going to throw some more samples down just for some ear candy. That reminds me, I can also freeze, oh, whoops. I can also freeze this track because it's got this plugin going on. That does take up a little bit of memory. So worst case scenario, I can just freeze it and unfreeze it as I go. But we have this going on. So let's keep playing our song. Whoa there. It's pretty wild. Let's freeze our drums. That might help. Okay. So as we just listen to this, I'm going to search for samples in the key of E flat minor or in just any other minor key. And then Splice will actually put it into E flat minor and give me some ideas of what it would sound like. It's loading. I think it's freaking out at me. To be completely honest, I don't know if you hear that. That's really interesting. Why is it so quiet? Yeah, that's being a bit weird. Oh, I want splice. It's really weird that that was so quiet. So that was -4. Oops, missed it. That's -4 semitones, and you're going to want to lower this, probably 6. It's going to be a lot louder now, I think. I want around -14, so it's at -6 now. We consolidate that. Sounds like a cool counter melody, I think. And I am going to listen to it an octave higher. Let's see what it sounds like. Man. Okay. It's going to be pretty wild here. I'm going to do a lot of this without listening to it. I'll let you guys have a listen as well. So here I'm panning this to the right. It's already up 12 semitones, but I'm going to lift it up 16 cents. Whoops. This one's going to go down to -14 cents. It's going to create a sense of width. I'm going to delay this. That's what this thing here. delayed at 20 milliseconds. So negative 16 milliseconds. And then I group those sides. I'm going to group this one into the middle. I use period for that. I'm going to group those into guitar. I group the middle one just in case I have other that just smelled an interesting smell. Whoops. Just in case I want to create other effect tracks. But these should all be around negative 14, so I'm going to freeze this one for CPU sake. I'm going to freeze this one. We'll listen to this first one here. That was around negative 12. So with that, I'm actually going to go into it, lower it down to negative. That's better. We're going to EQ it. I do the same EQ style here with my vocals. I do the same effect style with my vocals, just for everything really. I don't know why it's freaking out at me. Maybe I'll just freeze that. It's a little bit better. It's really obnoxious. We're going to compress it. See, I'm using my vocal compressor here. I'll show in another video how to do that. I'm going to lift that up maybe 3. Then we're going to copy those same effects into this one. So freeze this one first. Unfreeze this one. We're going to lower that one another 17 as well. Okay, good. I'm going to do the same thing here. Oh, blast. You can always just undo it here. Freeze that. This one's going to sound different because it's an octave lower still, so we're going to want to EQ that one just a bit differently. I like to use this thing, I call it the bowl. It's like a spoon almost. Kind of makes it sound a little lo-fi. Okay, now listen to the whole group. So you can hear those sides are a lot higher than they should be. So we're gonna do an audio effect track. Rack. Just lower it. It's pretty cool. This is also probably pretty loud. So we're gonna lower that one decibels as well. And then for the sake of just showing you how to do this, do that in middle red. I'm just going to freeze these tracks. We are going to create a guitar verb. This one's progression verb. That makes sense. That's probably why it's freaking out, because I've got this vintage verb on this one that I can't freeze. So, I mean, I can always record that into a track and then freeze that track instead, which might be better. Huh. Anyway, let's do -24 on that one, -16 on this one. Let's do like -28 on this one because it's louder. Oh, that's the wrong one. I was wondering why that happened. So now listen. That's beautiful. It's freaking out at me here. That's really pretty. We're just going to see how it sounds with everything. We'll lift that up to -10. Same EQ on this one. We're going to cut out those high ends. Cut out the low end. Now let's listen to it with the whole group. Oh well. Obviously, I don't think they work very well together, everything going on here. But I think that is really, really pretty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this one as Guitar Fairies, something random. I'm going to delete everything here. Well, there we go. So now that's in its own new project. Just the guitars with the drums. And now we can go back to stream one. Hopefully the guitar won't be there. Maybe I lost a lot. I don't think I lost very much, no. It's good. Anyway, sweet. So now I've got both of them. And that is it for me today. Let's quit splice. And that will be all. Thanks, guys. Bye.